Hi, my name is Kara, and the first thing that I want to talk to you about today is my family's origin. So, how that impacts schools, we discuss later. But I just wanted to start with talking about who I am as a person. So, whenever I saw this assignment, I decided to contact my family. My mom's cousins track some of our genealogy on her side, and then in my dad's side of the family, a few years ago, my grandma, his mom, and my dad did a project where they kind of went into our history, and so I have lots of binders from him about that side of the family. So I've been able to gain some information from each, but I wouldn't be able to say that I can paint a clear picture about where we came from. One of the things that my dad specifically told me was that he doesn't know our complete family history. And so that's important for me to be able to say that, is that we don't know exactly where our family originated from. We don't have that specific nation that we are from. However, from what we have discovered, we have realized that my family has some English background, has some French, a very small amount of French, and then German on my dad's side. And then on my mom's side, we know there are some influences of Irish and Scottish, especially because you'll notice in a lot of our family pictures, my family has red hair. And so that's a big, red flag right there. But we also believe that on my mom's side, there has to be probably some German or English as well. And so basically, my heritage is all over the place. Obviously, it's European history, and I don't have Asian or Indian or Native American cultures, but those are important to say, that it's a lot of European cultures put together. And so that's where I am here. And the interesting thing that we do know about my dad's side of the family is that whole family is Appalachian culture a lot. I looked through one of the binders here, and there's just pages after pages. If you can see, this is like me is at the bottom, and then my parents and grandparents, and it just keeps going. There's 10 pages just for me alone about my history. And so we can say that's probably at least 12 generations, if not more. And they're all located in Ohio, if not specifically southern Ohio, in Ross County. That's where I've grown up. I've lived in the same house since I was 3 years old. A lot of my family has lived in the same house throughout their generations of growing up, or on the same street, knowing the same culture, the same people. And so I can definitely attribute to growing up in that kind of a culture, an Appalachian culture, rather than a culture of a certain country. And so I took a class last spring talking about culture, and I noticed that some of my friends would reference German culture and how their family celebrates and participates in a lot of German traditions and eating certain foods. Some had Asian traditions. I cannot say that I have any of those. I mean, we are the epitome of an Ohio family, an Appalachian family. The neighbors know each other well, and you're my grandparents, my parents. A lot of people know of you, know of your family. I can say a lot of resistance to change. Coming to school at University of Cincinnati is an urban city. It's modern. A lot of things are up to date. For instance, we don't have a flat screen TV in my house at home. And that's just something that my dad doesn't think needs to be changed. And so we don't change it. And so there's just things like that Appalachian culture has definitely influenced me. My neighborhood is majority of white, middle-class American family. There is some poverty in our city, and that's definitely relevant. Chillicothe has some of that, and so that's impacted how I've grown up, but I've always been raised in this very white dominant supremacy kind of way. I've never been told necessarily that another race is bad, but I've never been told it's good either, and diversity being good. It just never was something that we really talked about. One day I remember that my aunt, my mom's sister, my aunt, brought up that at her work, a lot of people that were getting jobs and promotions were people of different cultures, and that really frustrated her. And we had a conversation, and I remember her and my grandma and my mom and my dad and everyone understood her, but I took this other approach. I guess I didn't understand why they looked down upon that culture and why they instead were not looking down upon that person, and just thinking about why did that person get a raise versus why did that Islamic person get a raise. And so things like that definitely have cropped up. The older I've gotten, the more I've noticed that my grandpa and that my aunts and uncles and even second cousins, they will refer and think about life in a different way. And I have to remember that they grew up in Ohio. They didn't have all other cultures really to see much. Because of where we're isolated, we don't have a lot of diversity for them to get to know people. And so that's really important in my origins. But besides that, as I said, we don't really know exactly where we came off the boat. We don't have that story of lineage of where my last name came from, etc. I just know that there are several long trains of family we've looked at, including the Barnharts, the Davises. My last name is Duddy, but a lot of people don't use that in our family. There's Oilers. My grandma Graham is on my mom's side. So these are names that have went through, and there are a lot of people with that last name. It's very common in my area to have one of those names. Mine is Euler. That's not very common, but Deddy and Davis, there are hundreds of Deddys, and we'll get people walk up to us and say, "Are you related to so-and-so?" And no, we don't know who they are. And so that's the Appalachian culture of having the same name, being very close-knit, being able to not change very much, as I said, being very rooted, not moving around a lot. It's kind of a big deal that I went to a college, that I left that town, that I'm the first generation that will be going to school. So that stuff means a lot to me. More so, I think, it impacts me more so than necessarily my country origin. So the next thing I want to talk about is just traditions and beliefs. So as I've told you, we have this very middle class lifestyle. We do a few different things that are unique. However, I'm not sure where they come from in origin. So one thing, I'm just thinking of Christmas. That's an easy thing. A lot of people in America celebrate Christmas, and so we do. We meet with my grandparents, so we'll go to one grandparent's house, and we'll go to the other one on the next day. So one Christmas Eve, one Christmas Day. And then one thing that we do, my mom has done for me, my aunt did for her kids, and I believe it's been passed down, is that there's a little box, probably about, real small, that will be under the tree, and every morning for the 12 days of Christmas, there will be a gift, a small gift in the box for whoever to have a gift of. And that's kind of reminiscent, I've noticed, of some other cultures who leave little presents and shoes, or have little trinkets. And so there is a custom, and I believe it's German, that also celebrates the pickle. And so my grandma Nancy recently, that's my dad's dad, recently took on that tradition and hides the pickle ornament in our Christmas tree. And so whoever finds it gets a small gift in addition to their Christmas gifts. And so usually it's a gift card of some sort, but it's kind of a fun tradition that we've taken on and adopted. So it's not been something that we've always done, but I think that that's something that's special to me. In addition to that, customs, biases, I definitely think that I came into college thinking that I was this little small town girl, and I don't know that that's always been like that, but I have felt like that before. I've definitely not known what people were talking about, not participated in the name brand, the hype of that. I think that impacting me going forward as a teacher, maybe that I wouldn't catch on to some more urban things, some more trendy things, because that's not the kind of environment that I grew up in. I can't say that I went to a rural county school. I went to a city school, but that city school is nothing like Cincinnati city schools. And so just comparing those, as I move forward to be a speech language pathologist, that might be something that I've noticed now in my volunteering and tutoring in schools and hospitals, that sometimes I don't know what people are talking about, and maybe it's just because of a delay that took me from getting from Chillicothe to Cincinnati. The next thing I was just going to talk about is that my mom's side of the family and my dad's, more so my mom's, has a big tradition of being in the military, and in our past generations, this one now isn't so much, but my grandparents and above, a lot of them were in the military, either by choice or by draft. And so my aunt, my great aunt, and I'm trying to think who, my third cousin, sorry, it's a little complicated. They really have a lot of passion for the military. They're in Daughters of the American Revolution. They serve on boards in Texas for that, because my mom's family has since spread more across the country, but there's still a lot in Ohio. I would still say a lot in southern Ohio, but they're starting to leave, and the Duddy side has not. They're just staying in southern Ohio. That's them. And so anyways, the military thing is very important because there's a lot of respect for that, and there's a lot of prestige in being a part of the military, and we celebrate that a lot in our family. I went through another book. This is another book, and there's tons, as you can see, there's tons of pictures, old pictures, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage announcements that my dad has kept. And these are of my dad's side of the family again. But even in this book, I've noticed some of the pictures have military insignias or whatever, and so it's very important to our family that that's there, and that definitely goes into customs and beliefs of importance. What you hold is valuable to my family. That's valuable. Being outside is something that's been valuable in my family. A lot of my family has been farmers or has gardens or hunts, and so we have a lot of respect for the land in my family, and that might be because we're from an Appalachian community. So moving forward, the last thing I wanted to talk about was definitely how beliefs impact my work with family. And so I put a lot of thought into this because it's a pretty in-depth thing. I think that my beliefs, my customs, my family's culture all goes into who I am. And so as a speech language pathologist, I have a lot of passion for who I am, and I thought long and hard about how I want to be a speech language pathologist. And originally it was working with kids with disabilities, and then it kind of shifted to kids with brain injuries or adults in a nursing home. But I finally found, I guess, my niche and my passion, and that's to help kids in poverty. And I can say that that's because I came from a place that I've seen a lot of that. I've noticed that rural poverty doesn't have a lot versus urban poverty does, and so I've seen the differences in Cincinnati and Chillicothe, and that has melded into my passion. So I came from this middle class family, but we weren't always middle class. I can say that We did dabble in living in lower income at times because of jobs lost and layoffs and etc. And so I can say I felt privileged, and then I kind of didn't, and then I did again. But we've never really been fully middle class. We're kind of lower middle class, and so that impacts the part of me that just wants to help those who had it even worse off than I did. I love to read, and that's something that a lot of my family has loved to read, and so I want to share that love of literacy through being an SLP and working in a classroom. Now, the thing I really want to talk about, though, too, is that I do have biases, and I've noticed that when I'm down here volunteering or even just like out and about, that I've noticed that if people this isn't probably my family speaking in my head, I've noticed that if people with different backgrounds, I do get more nervous talking to them, especially if they speak another language. I think that's the big red flag for me. Even though I've had 3 different languages in school, I still get kind of nervous about that, especially those who appear differently, like that definitely don't act like they want to talk to you or don't really think about you. You always wonder, or I've always wondered, are they talking about me? What are they saying? Do they belong? Shouldn't they speak English? And I know that that's a very stereotypical thing, and I try and ignore it. I try and erase that out of my head because of the amount of poverty that I am surrounded by, and amount of diversity, especially working in Cincinnati Public Schools has done that for me, has helped with that, but I know that it still happens. And so moving forward, I don't think that voice is ever going to go away. I just think that I have to learn to ignore it like I have been, and to learn to try and appreciate different cultures and be able to talk to people. The one thing I found successful is to be able to talk about something that's common. So it could be just how cute their little kid is, or how you love this book, and then they do too. So overall, I think that all of those things definitely relate to my work with families in the future. I think that coming from the background that I have will impact where I go in my future, where I settle down, the kind of roots that I want to grow. I probably will stay in Ohio. That's where I'm inclined to stay, is near my family, and I think that that's my family speaking to me, that I should be near them. And so I just can't wait to see what happens, and I hope that moving forward I can work with families better through who I am.